causing the plumes to be recognized on the multi-beam sonar.
90 degrees.
The plumes.
So.
Oh, there's great. I'm glad you could join us again, Carolyn.
Soon, so.
Yeah, so I'm listening to. Sorry, I'm having a lot of buffering problems this morning, so I haven't even figured out. I'm still just buffering. I can't even see this yet. But just to say that, I mean, there is no normal amount of methane to come out of seeps. So
there's another one.
There are places in the world where they're very effusive, they're constant. There are other places where this is what we see. We see a few bubbles at a time. In fact, I mentioned earlier that what we call the impedance contrast with bubbles compared to the water. So think of it just like the seismic velocity of gas within the bubbles versus the seismic velocity of the water, or you can think of it like density. Is so great that even just a few bubbles going off every now and then and sort of building up in this train in the water column is in fact enough to produce a plume that we can then image. And in fact, the irony is the plumes often look way more impressive because we can detect them so easily in the water column than the seepage does at the seafloor when we get down there. But of course, the other part of this is that sometimes there is something nearby that's seeping very effusively. It's just that's not what we happen to trip across when we're down at the seafloor. So I don't think there's any real normal for seeps that we've seen, whether they be on the East Coast, the West Coast, in the Arctic, on Arctic margins, in the Black Sea. There's just a real range of what we see, and it has a lot to do with how much methane is present in the sediments, the driving forces for getting the methane out of the sediments, and a number of other factors that can contribute.
Right. So do we have that 0.1 move in?
And Carolyn, these bubbles expand as they rise, but at some point they are absorbed, the gases are absorbed, or they disappear in the water column. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there's a threshold size for which in fact, Scott Sokolowski at Texas A&M University has done a lot of work on this. So there's a threshold size for any given depth at which the bubbles, if they're larger than that size, they have the potential to survive as a bubble higher up into the water column versus just sort of dissolving. However, one of the things to keep in mind is that what really happens to the methane in the bubble is that it goes out of the bubble as the bubble rises through the water column. Let me just interrupt 1 second here.
ROV now, bridge move initiated.
Fish lower left.
Sorry. As the bubble rises through the water column, the methane, the seawater is very undersaturated in methane, even in places like this. And so methane comes out of the bubble and goes into the surrounding seawater, and oxygen and nitrogen and argon, which are dissolved in the seawater in much greater amounts, kind of fill those bubbles. So even if a bubble were to survive, it's not going to have methane in it any longer as it rises through the water column.
Mm-hmm. It's coming tight.
Wow, look at this guy. Very different goosefish than we've seen previously.
It's a gosling.
Yeah, it's got lasers on it.
And thank you for that explanation, Carolyn.
Yeah, I think a lot of people imagine that these bubbles rise all the way to the surface and pop at the top, and we'd be able to detect them that way, and I wanted to dispel that idea. Of course, maybe it does happen in shallower waters, but it certainly wouldn't happen here.
500 meters, yeah. Another hagfish, and wow, a bunch more.
Yeah, we're
very
seeing
dark.
And we're seeing a lot more bubbles here, so yeah, this kind of bubbling I could definitely see showing up on the multi-beam.
Detectable plumes.
Sit down and get tight on these on the right.
Wow, yeah, there's a lot. This is great. So maybe we'll see some of the kinds of communities you're hoping to investigate.
Wow, this one down here looks very interesting.
Holes in the
I
forward.
wonder if that's a quillworm that's checking it out. Yeah, it looks like it. He's got a long tube.
How they pull themselves forward.
Wow, and there's a squid laying in the middle of it.
We can stop the ship.
Squid being eaten by a quillworm.
Oh, I think the squid's got, somebody's got got a hold of the other. It's hard to tell who's got whom. Looks like he's pulling the tentacle or the arm down into the tube.
It does look like that. Could a quillworm really eat a squid?
That's amazing. Well, maybe just a piece of
Or
it.
just a piece, yeah.
Easy stop on.
That's incredible.
Easy stop outs.
Oh, wow.
Copy.
Oh, good, he got away.
Wow.
That is really interesting.
Continuous bubbles still on those up there.
You don't see that with sonar.
ROV nav, bridge, holding station.
You got to be down here.
Thank you, Bridge. You can get a quick on the jelly here. You saw these yesterday.
We saw a couple.
I gotta come down.
And we've got some amazed folks on the chat room. They've never seen them feeding. At least like that.
That's the shot of the day.
Kill lasers.
Everything.
Kill lasers.
Roger that, Nav.
Hello, Mike Vecchione here.
Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mike.
What'd you think about that little interaction?
Actually, I don't know what interaction you're talking about.
Oh, I thought that's why you're calling in.
Stop watching in order to call you.
Oh, we just saw a tube worm holding on to one of the arms of a squid. And it looked like it was pulling the arm down into the tube, but
I called to tell you that the squids that were in the video a few minutes ago are brachiotephus, not the ilex.
Okay, resetting next.
Oh,
It's
that's...
the
I was thinking they
other
looked
one that we saw
different.
before.
Huh.
Firing.
But if you
Okay.
see anything
That's
sitting on the
second
bottom,
bottle.
that would be an ilex.
Successful fire.
The ones that have been swimming around in the past few minutes have been brachiotephus.
yeah, I wonder if
And
we've
also, I
seen
don't know if you
both.
got, do you have any fish people on the line or on the chat room?
I think it's too early for the fish people.
The weird looking fish was a
Watch
batfish,
it. This
not
is
a.
co-pilot.
Oh, a batfish? Okay.
Still looking to get it tight on a bunch
Look
of
at all
bubbles.
those.
Did you copy?
That's all I had to
We
say.
just fired
Oh, well,
the
thanks.
second
Thanks. We
bottle.
need clarification on many of these organisms. We appreciate it.
Oh, okay. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Mike.
Bye.
So I'm not sure how delayed I am on the feed. I'm having a lot of problems this morning. But it's
Go
cool
ahead,
that we,
Rilla.
again, have two little bubble streams that are coming out, and it's coming out at very different rates.
Yeah, Carolyn, we just are zooming into one now that is extremely continuous with bubbles.
Yeah, if you can, try to see if they can put the lasers on, because it's always good to get a sense of the size.
Okay.
That may not be possible to zoom, though.
Okay. When we zoom out, we can put the lasers on, please.
All these pesky biota in the water column getting in the way of our zooms.
Lasers.
Right, so I'm caught up to the Zoom now. So just for the information of those on the line, the bubbles at the seafloor often, they look huge to us here, but they're often emitted. They're about 3 millimeters, kind of a normal size for these.
Can come in partial.
When
Keep
we're a
the
little
lasers.
deeper, you can see it better. We saw it the other day, but the bubbles actually come out. They're kind of squashed, and they're kind of wobble a little bit as they rise.
If we can sit straight on it
I would
to
say that
look
these are
out,
probably
adjust
smaller than
lighting
3
and
centimeters, wouldn't you
get
say, Leslie?
shutter control.
3 millimeters.
Millimeters.
Oh, 3
is it?
millimeters.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
They look
Sorry.
bigger than
Well,
3
if I sit
millimeters,
down,
but
there's
it's
a
hard to
chance I
tell.
might
We,
pick up dust.
Carolyn, do you see
So,
the
That might be
the
your last
lasers
shot
now?
here.
Yes,
Do you
I
wanna
do.
do
And
that, Roland?
yeah, they probably are a little bit bigger than 3 millimeters. There are people around who have
You copy?
capacity
Yeah,
to very
copy. I'm going to my
precisely
shutter
measure
settings.
these bubble
Do you
sizes.
want me to
One of the
sit down?
reasons the bubble size
Let's see what we
matters
get.
is that different sized bubbles, as we were kind of alluding to before, survive to different water depths in the water column. And also, different sized bubbles retain their methane for longer. So I'm sorry, I didn't say that exactly right, but larger bubbles will obviously retain their methane longer than smaller bubbles as they rise through the water column and as different gases replace the methane. When that methane goes into the water column from the bubbles, it dissolves and it is available
tilt
then
up.
for oxidation by microbes, and oxidation turns
See if
it
we can
into
get any black in the
CO2.
background.
that methane is also, so the methane basically becomes bioavailable to organisms in the water column when it comes out of the bubbles. They're kind of squashed a little bit. They're kind of squashed in the vertical direction a little bit, which is typical under pressure.
Just amazing how much is happening in the water column.
Chat room as well.
Great, thank you, Carolyn.
Yeah, and now you can see what a
Best I can do.
continual stream of bubbles it is as we look up into the water column itself. So this is far more than what we've been seeing earlier.
Yeah.
And on other cruises, or other dives. I guess we've only seen bubbles on one other dive.
Right.
And that was just a few bubbles very intermittently. This is more of a continuous stream from this particular seep.
And Amanda
It's
Demopoulos
a
also
beautiful
said,
shot.
yeah, sure is.
Yeah.
Amanda also agreed that the bubbles seem squished or compressed compared to some others that she's seen.
Well, note on that compression, I think that may be due to the speed of the camera pickup. If you actually adjust your shutter for those, I think you'll actually find that they're actually more spherical. Did some testing back in 2012. Got a lot better lighting and everything associated with the bubbles.
Another big patch up here.
Yeah, that is a good point. And as I mentioned, Scott Sokolowski has the capacity to image these with very high-speed cameras and really look at their morphology. They do, I believe, still have some sort of smushiness with them. And this wobble, you kind of get them, they wobble as they go up as well. And we've seen that in the lab as well. But that's a very good point about the optics.
Come on in.
Another eel pout sitting in the middle of this bacterial mat. And the other day when we saw bubbling, oh yeah, there's some bubbles.
Come out
The
partial.
other day when we saw the bubbles, there was a little part of the bacterial mat that was above where the bubbles were coming out. Kind of looked like a marshmallow waving in the wind. A little, yeah, flap of the bacterial mat.
Or you can come back in partial. Let's hold that. See if we can find where the bubbles are coming from.
Well, the eel pouts definitely don't seem to mind this environment. Nor do the quill worms.
Okay, it's coming up. Are you marking any of these?
So Tina asked us, what are the squid feeding on? And
I'm marking the bacteria and the bubbles.
Cool.
It looks like a variety of things today compared to the other day. We saw them feeding on myctophid midwater fishes, and there's definitely some of that going on, but then we just had this interaction of a quillworm with a squid, and we were kind of unsure of which one was trying to be the predator and the prey. And these squid seem to be touching down on the seafloor more often. So I think it's more than just the midwater fish here that they're trying to eat.
Let's get this crab.
Oh, and here's a squat lobster in a burrow. It's just waiting for something to swim by, reach out and grab it.
Look like there's a shrimp laying on top of it. Or krill, whatever these are.
Come in tight.
Yeah, it does look like there's a shrimp walking on the top of this squat lobster. Huh.
Can't get it.
Give it a second, it'll clear.
I'm not sure if that's a long-term association or if that's a passerby. Can't quite tell what it is.
Maxine.
But the squat lobster certainly doesn't seem to be bothered by him.
Yeah, it's coming up.
See another bacterial mat up ahead on the left. And we were talking with Amanda Demopoulos from the USGS, and here's another one on the left, and another hagfish. We were talking about the productivity in these bacterial mats. There's lots of infauna or organisms that live within the sediments. Oh, there's a right to the left of the crab, it might be a hagfish head sticking out, and it looks like a hagfish just went by.
All right, Pots, are you ready for me to continue that decimal one?
And the hagfish has something that it's trying to eat, I think.
Squid.
Or maybe it got away.
Is that all mucus? Right, it's coming up.
And so yeah,
what were you saying now?
These bacterial mats,
are you ready for me to
if organisms can get in there and eat some of the sediments,
yeah, we can
or
sieve
through some of the sediments, there'll be a lot of concentrated food in the underneath the bacterial mats and the sediments. And we were kind of referring to them as, oh wow, look. So there's on the right is one of these quill worms that has a shrimp, a suggested shrimp. And then that looks like an anemone maybe that is growing on quill worm
180, speed decimal 1.
Tube in the middle. That would be my guess.
Go ahead, watch one.
ROV nav bridge, move initiated.
Hey, come on out, Rowan. recommended.
Interesting. Here's another squid sitting right on the bacterial mat.
Mat. It's bacterial mat, like a floor mat.
I've not seen, yeah, I haven't seen this behavior before with the squid. And when we first came up on this bacterial mat, there was one of the squid just sitting right in the middle of it. I mean, Amanda was pointing out that there are all sorts of infauna underneath in the sediments below these bacterial mats, and so maybe they are able to find some of those.
We were just replaying one of the close-ups of a squid that landed in the sediments and literally did a somersault. Head over heels. He stuck his fins into the sediment and then pulled himself out with his arms and did a somersault.
And another, look at the eel pout laying right in the really dark sediments there. And another one on the corner. Haven't seen any bubbles yet from this one.
So all of these sort of linear features of the seafloor, they're all that same worm we were looking at before? That quill worm?
Yeah, we've seen so many of those today, and we haven't seen them anyplace else.
Coming up.
Hey, Mike Vecchione here again.
Hello, Mike. How are you?
I'm okay. That squid that was on the bacterial mat, that's a very unusual observation. That looked like a Brachiotephis to me. I've never seen them sit on the bottom except when they were dying. I've seen them dying on the bottom before.
Get the Tina.
Because I think I mentioned a couple of days ago we got into a spawning aggregation of them, and then we were seeing dead ones, or actually dying ones. They were still pumping their mantles, but they were clearly dying on the bottom. So I'm not sure what you just saw, but it's something that I've never seen before, which is the Brachiotephis sitting on the bottom.
Wow.
Unless it's actually on its way out. It might have been
very close to you.
Either sick or dying, I guess.
Full life.
Did you see the somersaulting?
On the bottom, the way an ilex rests on the bottom.
Hey.
Did you see the one that somersaulted out of the way?
No, I did not see that. But they do that if they have an irritant on them. They'll roll up in a ball and turn somersaults and stuff like that.
Huh.
You wouldn't think a squid could do that because they've got that the pen that goes down their back, but they can bend that.
Well, thanks for putting some perspective onto these observations. It seemed strange to me, but I have not looked at anywhere near the number of squid that you have.
Yeah, it was strange behavior for that species. So you could also keep your eye out for paired up squids up in the water column. What we saw when the Brachiotephis were mating was that one squid held the other one in its arms. So the pointy end of one squid was being held by the arms of the other squid when they were mating.
Okay.
Hard time deciding whether it was mating or cannibalism.
Right.
Might have been both.
Activity and squid on the bottom.
Go ahead.
Okay, that's it for now.
Thanks for calling, Mike.
Okay, bye.
The one in the dust.
Oops. Here's one of the jellyfish that we were seeing yesterday. They were saying it was Cyanea, the lion's mane jelly.
It's a good name for it. I think we saw hagfish, so we're going to see if it clears, if it's still there.
And we have a question from the audience for the ROV team. Are you listening, ROV team?
Yes.
Okay, Tyler Crunbush said, the addition of the fog lights seems to be a success. Thoughts, ideas, ever thought of LED mounted to the craft wrist to use as a flashlight for peering in holes? Huh.
That's an interesting idea. Right now, for peering under overhangs, we have this lower swing arms, which can lower to basically a few inches off the bottom, and then you can rotate them forward. We've used those in the past for overhangs. And I've seen people put lights on arms before. I've seen people put cameras on arms also. It's an interesting idea, something we'll keep in mind in the future.
Oh, great. Thanks for that question, Tyler.
Let's come on in here.
Okay, so the folks were saying that there was a problem with stream 3.
See all 3 streams go down and then come back.
Okay, all the streams are going to come down, but they're going to come back, so don't fear. We'll be here watching the quill worms. This is really amazing.
It really is.
Pilot, do you want me to pause the ship move at all? Copy.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-oh, the snail's getting into a bad spot there.
Fast-moving snail. Trying. There's another snail there too.
And
it's being fed on, looks like.
So these quill worms are relatives of Unicid polychaetes, and it was the Unicid that we found in the coral framework many dives ago. Remember that fun time we had getting the Unicid polychaete out of the coral framework? So these are relatives. So I'm sure we want some of these to play with here on the ship.
You mean when we literally screamed
the whole
in the lab?
The whole ship heard us. The Unicid that we were trying to get out of the framework of the coral came out and kind of came up towards my hand, and it looked like it was going to bite me. Everybody's
quite terrifying.
And we found out that Leslie just loves worms through that experience.
And from several since we seem to be collecting them on a regular basis.
Right, it's coming out. Let's push ahead. I didn't see that hagfish, but I'll keep an eye out for
That's
more.
fine, yeah.
Yep. Let's do we'll do a pirouette around this, Roland. Let's come on in. Let's hold that.
And this live, all 3 streams should be back up now, so hopefully people can see. And we're watching another squid kind of tumbling along.
I'm sorry you missed it, but there was a group of these quill worms. It looked like they were feasting on one gastropod, and a second gastropod was trying to make its way out of there, and I've never seen a snail move that fast.
Yeah.
Okay, it's coming up.
There, what that red thing was.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how many of these patches
Pushing ahead.
Ooh, look
we've
at that big
seen
one.
by now. Oh, wow. Looks like a much more extensive
Yeah, we can stop the ship here.
group of bacterial mats. Wow, look at that.
Go ahead, Nav.
And we are getting reports that Stream 3 is working
stop
again.
by.
So thank you, Roland, and everybody.
Easy stop, pilots.
And thank
Let's do a snap here. That is a
Hello?
big one.
Holding station.
Let's get lasers.
Oh, and here's one of those snails going over one of the bacterial mats. I bet you that's a tasty treat.
And there's some dust.
What's
Yeah,
he got
it's coming
on
up.
his back?
Yeah,
Looked like he had
something.
some associate with him.
Wow, and look at how fast these quillworms can move. Dragging that whole big tube with them.
They would have been fun to watch yesterday on those very steep slopes.
Yeah.
And tumbling down them right and left.
Maybe that's why they weren't there.
Yeah.
It's not a good configuration for a steep
No.
slope.
Yeah, that thing's like 10 centimeters long.
Gosh, look at this. This is really extensive.
Any chance of getting it tighter with lasers?
If we wait a moment, Roland.
Yeah, that's a big one.
All right, go ahead.
And this is what we think we collected earlier and what we saw 2 days ago. Look at the comparison of that snail with the little one in the pit, which is the more common one we've been seeing.
Yeah, so this is a huge snail compared to the others.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can come in tight.
Shore scientists are
And I
already
really think that
reporting it was
it's
back.
intending to have that sediment cover because
Does it have something on it?
I almost wonder if that's a little
look at the operculum on
little
the back.
holothurian on his back.
You can see that reddish little plate on the top of his foot there, and that's the trap door that closes when he pulls his body into the shell. It's called the operculum. Yeah, I'm sure this is what we saw. When was it? Yesterday? We saw two of them in the mud,
Just come on out, Roland.
and we thought we'd see more, and
Yeah,
we didn't.
I'm going to push forward, which should
It's
center me
interesting
up
because
on
that
you
was not
rather
a
than-
seep area where we were.
I'm going to push forward, so that should center me up on you.
There's another mud star just in the foreground center.
Okay, go ahead in.
I wonder if that's a different species than the one that we collected today. The snail.
The snail. It had the bumps, and
It similar shape of the shell.
yeah.
To me, it looked like it had a baby sea cucumber
Yeah,
on
might
its
have.
shell. And there's a rat tail on the left. Actually, oops.
Snap in here. Okay. coming up.
So we had information from the Conchologists of America and Dr. Harry Lee at University of Florida that said that they could be in the family Turidae, these snails.
Which ones? The
The snail.
common one or that large one that we just saw?
Oh, this was from what we saw several days ago. And
Yeah, there's
Fish in
another
the hole.
I
fish.
thought
Go
that they
ahead in.
possibly were.
Oh yeah, here's another of the
Oh, good.
what were they?
Rye-
Rye fish?
Rye mouth.
Rye mouth.
Maybe.
Maybe a relative of the toadfish. Is that what the consensus was?
I think the toadfish was the other thing that they were thinking. I think the
Oh,
rye
okay.
mouth is
the
different.
rye mouth
although
is not.
Can you see me at all, Fernando? All right, come on up.
Yeah, you're on my
Yeah, I see the light pole.
port side. So if you move up a little bit, you'll come in here.
Wow.
We're
And
fine
so
with this
extensive
video.
mats like this
Right,
were
there you are.
observed with the Century autonomous underwater vehicle on a deep search cruise that Amanda Demopoulos from USGS was leading. So they had little snippets of what might have been down here, little images or several images, but now we get to see and explore the full extent of this.
Let's hold that. Let's get that upright tube. Come on in.
I don't know if this is a quill worm. Is this standing straight up?
Maybe it's got its head in the sand.
Right, come on up.
It's bigger than the quill worm tubes.
Yeah. Another cancer crab. Oh, look at this, just goes on and on.
But no bubbles yet here.
No, I haven't seen any bubbles yet.
I suspect we'll see some.
Let's get the squid right here.
Lots of quill worms. Eel pout, and there's another squid on the seafloor. I hope that they're just resting, not in trouble.
Is that a different type of eel pout?
It's a great shot of the eel pout.
Come in tight right there again.
Oh, and there's another of the snails close to the quill worm
Just come in tight right there.
group.
I think those guys are chowing down on something.
We scared one of them away. Back into his tube.
Right, it's coming out.
Wow.
Snap zoom right here.
Watch, this is Copilot.
Get the
I just had a
sediment.
question about those tubes. Do they make them? Do they find
That's
them
interesting.
and then they get inside, or?
Are they bivalve shells?
Okay.
It does look like bivalve shells for sure. That one kind of center now looks a fairly
Yeah, it's the only
intact.
one that really looks like one. And there was a nearby cancer crab, which would be one of the few. There's a good bivalve shot. That would be one of the few organisms that could break these into those pieces. A few organisms that we've seen, at least.
Okay, coming up.
right.
Unless squid can grab them and with their beaks. It's interesting that it's all concentrated as though a few bivalves were consumed in one location.
Let's get the slow right here. Eel pout.
So there's definitely interest in the chat room if we see another one of the tubes that's standing
The
upright.
vertical.
out.
Vertical tubes to look at that, because that is very likely something different than all of these quill worms that we're seeing that are laying on the surface. There goes crab.
Oh, for a push core. We could get these layers intact.
I think Amanda Demopoulos will be here eventually.
Good, Amanda. Please get some good samples. I'm sure you will.
I was actually attempting to count the number of patches we saw originally, but
give it
yeah.
It just keeps going. Look
Yeah,
at
it does.
Look at that upper left section. It looks sort of mounded as well.
And there's another squid doing the somersaulting behavior.
Yep, there's some bubbles.
Yep, down below you.
Yep.
Oh, here's some bubbles, maybe. Oh,
Yeah, I saw a
no,
couple.
that might have been something in the water column.
Yeah, come on in, partial. Yeah, hold that.
Another couple of really tiny eel pouts.
Off to the right edge, the white mat past the black. Looked like they were coming from that area.
Is that a... Oh, no, sorry.
So Carolyn Ruppel has plotted out where we are, and we're actually tens of meters from the nearest mapped seep or bubble plume site.
Come in tight.
So we're kind of in between the map sites from the Nat Geo database, the nature from the nature paper, and the USGS 2017 cruise. A wee bit ago, we went over a tube anemone, and here we have another, probably of the mud sea stars, another cancer crab.
Let's come on in.
And more eel pouts. So I wonder if this tube here,
Oh, he's on the move, too. Finally, we get to see them walking across the sediments.
there's always a little eel pout watching. And Pilot, after we image this guy, there's a tube to the left, if we could check that out.
Absolutely.
Looks like it's a bigger diameter.
Video's clear.
Roger that. Thanks,
coming up.
Nav. We've now gone
See.
200 meters since we've reached the seafloor. Yeah, that tube just to the left of the lasers there
The one that's laying down.
looks larger in diameter, maybe? Or is it just covered in more? Oh, no, we can see who owns it. He needs to do a little tidying up. He didn't know he was going to have company today.
It's Saturday.
Still drinking his coffee.
I'm just getting out of bed, I think.
I think we've outrun the krill. Starting to leave us alone a little bit.
Another toadfish.
It's a batfish.
That too.
Come on in.
Oh, and here we go. Another little batfish. Amanda was so upset she didn't see the first one, so here we go.
Hope you're watching now, Amanda. This one's for you.
Navigator, are we still moving?
They're so cute.
Ship has stopped. I can continue
How close
to
can you
move
get to
if
it?
Pat's ready then.
Not too close.
Do we know anything about their behavior, or
Do you want them off?
do
No, I
they?
said
Well,
let's
they're
get in
definitely
with
benthic.
lasers.
Yes.
I
Lasers cleared
believe
out.
they walk on
They
the
just come
sediments.
in.
I was wondering
like
if they
the,
did. Yeah, if they had. I was also
Right.
wondering if maybe they would inflate a little with water the way the chonaks do. Looks somewhat similar. And are they anglers also? They have that little dot between the eyes that could be a sensory organ. Guess we woke up Scott France.
Hey, coming up.
Yeah, they are anglerfish.
Scott, I assume you were trying to imitate in text
Sure.
the theme song
wanna
of
play it?
Batman,
I can
but
play
I
it.
am not going to sing it. I know you're trying to get me to do that, but I'm not going to do it. Nah, 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 nah.
You're doing it!
I'm not singing it, I'm reading it.
So, watch lead. Me and Fernando are going to swap seats now, real quick.
And I want to give a hello to the South Carolina Aquarium. Daniel Wagner from OER is hosting a live interaction there, or from 10 to 2 if you're anywhere near the South Carolina Aquarium. They have a great viewing. And so we encourage those of you attending to submit questions to us if
And pilots, for the next move, I would
on
like
the
to
off
adjust
chance that
heading
Daniel can't answer them.
to,
He's
200,
very, very
200
knowledgeable
degrees.
about all of these types of
And,
organisms
if we do a 40
and
meter
even
move, that'll
habitats,
put us right on top of
having
waypoint
been
3.
on several dives himself, several
So whenever you're ready,
expeditions.
I can put that in. We can do a decimal 1 if that works really well.
So, what was the bearing on that?
200, 200.
3 different starfish in the image. My God, the sea is full of stars.
Yeah, we haven't seen this many
We
sea
are
stars.
seeing stars.
Yeah, just like last night out on the bow.
Yep. Look, it's the Big Dipper. It almost looks like a dipper, doesn't it?
Go ahead, video.
Yeah.
Hold right there.
It looks like another set of quillworms is eating the shrimp here. They're very active predators. Pilot, can we look just a little bit down from where we are? There is some pinkish organism.
I think there's something left. 3 small pink things.
Okay, coming down.
Might be a
Video.
little bit left now.
There's one on the left edge of the screen.
Roland, they're requesting a view right
Come
now.
out, video.
Yeah, right on the left side there, above the crab.
Okay.
The squid on the top just swam over it.
All right. Let's come in. Hold right there.
Right there. What is that?
Tilting down. Okay, let's come in, video.
An-
Hold right there.
Almost
Amphipod?
looks like a
Maybe?
isopod.
Or a snail?
I don't know. Yeah, maybe it is a
Nudibranch?
snail or a nudibranch.
Next to
Copy.
Did we see a nudibranch earlier when someone
Sit
was
down, you just have to
talking and we didn't want to
Get off
interrupt?
out of altitude.
Today?
Yeah.
Oh,
Let's come
I
out
don't
partially.
remember
Video.
that,
We
but
saw a slug-like organism without a shell. And I meant to ask afterwards.
There's a little bit of current, so if you get the current right, should be good.
Okay.
Yeah, nice.
All right, let's
I
come
wonder
in
if the
video.
poor thing is in the grips of the
Hold right there.
quill worm.
Might be.
Looks kind of like a nudibranch to me.
Or maybe it's a gastropod and we're not seeing the shell, we're looking at the foot.
Mm-hmm.
One of the mud stars is just off the screen on the right and might be in the process of burying itself. Maybe we could take a quick zoom on that after the snail.
Sure.
All right, let's come out video.
Want to see that sea star right there burying itself.
Okay, let's come in.
Interesting watching the
Hold right there.
quill worms interact with each other. Oh no, the one with the with the nudibranch, the head of the quill worm is facing away from it. So let's see, these two are
Let's come partial out. Right
eating
there.
that
Hold
shrimp
right there.
or fighting over it together.
Yeah, that sea star is definitely submerging.
Okay, let's come in a little bit.
Drifting up, it feels like.
Okay. Then hold right there.
So Bob Carney is giving us some information about the exploration and characterization of this area, and the benthos off of North Carolina and Virginia was characterized in the 60s and 70s by Robert Menzies and his student Gil Rowe, who was then at Duke University, and then by Jack Music and his student Ken Sulak, who was then at VIMS. And Ken has contributed quite a bit to our identification of the fishes on this expedition. But in all that work, the seeps were not recognized in the trawling and coring that was done.
There's a 6-armed sea star. Still looks
Cheryl,
like.
just to follow up on that, I mean, obviously, a lot of these things
right
have been going for a long time, we think, but we haven't been able to easily recognize them in the past. I mean, even 20 years ago, we were still mostly just doing dives on random bits of seafloor and attempting to find them. For example, with Alvin, now that we have the geophysical techniques where we can map large swaths of the water column very easily, it's much easier to find where these seep sites might be on the seafloor.
Yeah, Carolyn, didn't you say that, you know, a while back, it's not that some of the data wasn't being collected, but it just wasn't, the water column wasn't being analyzed?
Exactly. So multi-beams have been capable for quite a long time of imaging the water column, but the problem in part, and we still struggle a little bit with the quantity of data that is produced, storing that data, looking at those data, et cetera, is very difficult still for some groups to handle. And so the data probably has been collected and stored now for about maybe 10 years by some groups. But again, you see some of them, you know, dating indicates some of them have probably been going thousands of years, at least sporadically. It's just that we haven't really been able to find them until recently.
Right.
Are we moving, Navigator?
We're not.
Well, this
yet.
data
Ready,
sure was accurate here.
We're going to be moving 200.
200 is going to be new heading.
Sure.
Great. Can I do a 40-meter move at decimal 1?
Yep.
Copy.
I'm going to try with more lights. See how you do, Fernando?
Sure.
That 6-armed sea star appeared to be the same species that we've been seeing, but had an aberrant growth of an additional limb. Did you notice that? It was The sixth limb was growing out of the base of a fifth limb.
Oh. Huh.
As opposed to from the radial central point.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Yeah. We'll see what Chris Ma says about that if he ever comes online again today. We haven't heard from him in a couple days.
I think Chris would have loved to have collected that guy.
Yeah.
Hold right there.
I don't think we saw. Maybe a mud star yesterday, but not too many echinoderms.
Yeah, yesterday was just the buried brittle stars yesterday.
Let's come up.
That's looking nice.
Yeah, I want a screen grab of that one for a Valentine's Day card.
Right.
Hear that?
We haven't seen any bubbles in a while now.
Let's come up. It's gonna tilt up.
How's that light?
It's too bad we can't just take photographs of the seafloor from the surface. It's
spread out the light pool a little bit.
If we could get light to penetrate to the bottom, we'd be able to see these very easily, just their white patchiness.
There's some bubbles.
Can't do that.
Here's some bubbles.
Black spot
right on cue.
Yeah, you should have said that earlier.
Yeah, I'll say it every half a minute or so now.
The screen.
Yep.
You don't want to move forward and tilt.
It's hard to pinpoint their origin when you see them up
Middle
above.
right of lasers. And slightly up.
Another squid
You can zoom in
lurking
to see
there
if
on
we
the
see
right.
something. Hold right there.
It's from those two holes right there.
Right there. Okay.
And Bob Carney asked whether
Tilting up.
these bubble plumes might make enough noise so that the Navy might hear them.
Hold.
If they do their listening. And Carolyn Ruppel said that hydrophones are used to listen for the bubbles.
Oop. One just popped up there. Good job,
Oh,
Pilot.
there's another one of those snails.
Come in a little bit tighter. Hold right there.
They're still drifting up and away.
You can really see how matted these bacterial mats are.
Let's come out partially.
From that.
And the Nautilus this week was doing something similar in the Northwest Pacific seeps. And there have also been more complicated hydrophone arrays that have been put down to listen for bubbles.
Okay, come in. Hold.
What's interesting about this little bubble burping that we're seeing is it's also clearly bringing up sediment with it. So that's kind of cool that it's not only emitting the gas and possibly some fluid, but it's also pushing sediment out of that little hole.
Yeah, you can see it below the hole there.
We capture a few of them. If you're ready, video, we can look for some others.